Welcome. I am Lady Haldane and I am a judicial member of the Judicial Appointments Board for Scotland, and I will also be a panel member in the forthcoming Sheriff Principal competition. I would like to share some practical insights into the application and recommendation process for those who may be considering applying. So applications for this competition will open at the end of August. The competition information will include a role profile prepared by the Judicial Office, a guidance note setting out the recruitment process and assessment requirements, and access to the online application portal. These materials are designed to help candidates understand the nature of the role, the qualities being assessed, and the evidence required throughout the selection process. So I would therefore encourage you to familiarise yourself with them before beginning your application. Full details, including key dates and competition information, will be available on the JAB's website, and I strongly encourage you to read that material carefully before beginning your application. Throughout the process, remember one important principle. The panel can only assess the evidence that you provide. Strong candidates sometimes assume that their experience will speak for itself. Unfortunately, however impressive your career may be, we can only assess what is presented to us through the application and interview process. The application form consists of 4 main parts: personal information and eligibility, a personal statement, character and conduct questions, and a self-assessment covering legal competence and personal and judicial qualities. For many applicants, the self-assessment section is the most challenging part of the application. You will be asked to explain why you are suitable for the role and provide evidence demonstrating the skills and qualities required of a Sheriff Principal. Legal competence is assessed both at application stage and during interview. At application stage, you will provide examples demonstrating your legal knowledge, interpretation and application of the law. You will also be asked to submit 3 examples of written work for which you were solely responsible. Only the legally qualified panel members score the legal competence sections. Lay members may read the material and consider aspects of it when assessing other qualities, such as communication, but the legal scoring itself is undertaken by the legal and judicial members. Preparation is critical. Before completing the form, take time to review the role profile, guidance note and criteria carefully. Read each question closely and make sure your answer addresses exactly what is being asked. The strongest applications provide specific, accessible examples under the self-assessment section. So broad statements about appearing in senior courts or handling complex cases are unlikely on their own to provide sufficient evidence. Instead, explain the legal issue, the analysis you undertook, the approach you adopted, and the outcome achieved. For example, it's far more helpful to explain how you interpreted a difficult legal issue, distinguished existing authority, or developed a persuasive legal argument than simply stating that you appeared in a significant case. The panel needs enough information to understand what you did and how that demonstrates the relevant competence. Separately, there are areas of the form in which you can describe your own legal experience under a number of categories. Under civil and criminal, and this is the more appropriate place to provide factual statements. Candidates who have applied previously should take time to review the current guidance. The recruitment process is regularly reviewed and refined, and requirements may change between different competitions. So reusing a previous application without considering any changes may mean that you miss an opportunity to present your experience more effectively. Written work is equally important. Choose examples that demonstrate legal analysis, judgment, and application of the law. A document may be professionally impressive and yet provide limited evidence of legal reasoning. So when you are selecting examples, focus on material that best demonstrates the qualities being assessed, rather than work of which you are simply most proud. The accompanying description section is your opportunity to explain why you selected each example and how it demonstrates your legal skills and knowledge. So do use that opportunity well. Word limits are important and will be applied consistently. So if you submit a longer document, please clearly identify the section you wish the panel to assess. The panel will consider only the material within the specified limit. And that's because consistency in applying word limits ensures fairness for all candidates. You should also ensure that if you are highlighting several separate excerpts to formulate a single piece of written work under the word count, that the resulting piece is clearly marked and accessible for the panel. If you are shortlisted, you will be invited to interview. The legal component includes case studies designed to assess legal analysis, reasoning, and judgment. Candidates are typically provided with information in advance, allowing time for preparation and research where necessary. This helps ensure that candidates are not disadvantaged simply because they may not currently practice in a particular area of law. Additional information may sometimes be provided on the day of interview. This is not intended to test candidates unfairly. Rather, it allows the panel to assess how candidates respond to new information, adapt their thinking, and exercise judgment in changing circumstances. As with written applications, time limits are important. You should prepare your response carefully and ensure that you can communicate your reasoning clearly and concisely within the allotted time. We are interested not only in your conclusion, but also in the legal reasoning that supports it. So far, I've focused on the legal aspects of the process. So let me turn now to personal and judicial qualities, which are equally important when assessing suitability for appointment. My first piece of advice is simple. Give yourself enough time. A strong application requires reflection and careful preparation. It's rarely something that can be completed effectively in a single evening. The online application system allows you to save your work and return to it. Many applicants find it helpful to draft responses separately, revisit them after a period of time, and then review them again before submitting. Taking time to proofread your application can also significantly improve its overall presentation. The system does not have a spell check function, but there's no barrier to candidates forming answers on word processing software, such as Microsoft Word, and then copying and pasting their answers onto the system. For each personal and judicial quality, you will be asked to provide examples demonstrating how you meet the criterion. Although you may wish to refer to more than one example, please ensure that each example contains sufficient detail to allow proper assessment. Remember that we are interested in what you actually did. So once again, general statements such as, "I have always demonstrated leadership," are far less persuasive than a specific example showing how you exercise leadership in a particular situation. So strong examples usually explain the context, the challenge involved, the action taken, and the outcome achieved. Equally, examples that did not produce the desired outcome can be very powerful if they demonstrate insight, self-awareness, and a willingness to learn from experience. Honesty about gaps in experience can also be a strength. Demonstrating awareness of areas for development and a commitment to addressing them often provide valuable evidence of professional maturity. If shortlisted for interview, remember that preparing for interview involves much more than rereading your application form. You should be prepared to discuss your experience, respond to scenario-based questions, and provide further evidence demonstrating the required qualities. The interview panel will normally consist of judicial, legal, and lay members, supported by a note-taker. Following the legal case study exercises, the panel will explore the personal and judicial qualities through a structured interview. For the role of Sheriff Principal, there may be an additional assessment element to examine the leadership and management qualities that are, of course, crucial to this role. This may take the form of a presentation, scenarios, or something similar. Full details and any necessary work to be undertaken in advance will be shared with candidates invited to interview. It is important to remember that these elements are testing your skills or ability and willingness to obtain the skills necessary for the role, and are your opportunity to highlight to the panel your suitability for this role. Following this, the panel will commence the final part of the interview, a mix of scenario and competency-based questions. These questions often begin with phrases such as, "Tell us about a time when," or "Give us an example of a situation where." The purpose is always the same, once again to gather sufficient evidence to assess the required criteria. Additionally, although there is no requirement to live within a particular sheriffdom, candidates should be prepared to discuss how they would meet the practical requirements of the role, including travel commitments, attendance at their base court, and participation in leadership responsibilities such as committees and meetings. We recognise that interviews can be demanding, even for highly experienced candidates. The panel will seek to create a professional and respectful environment while ensuring that we obtain the information needed to make robust appointment decisions. Before applying, I encourage you to reflect on a few important questions. Do you understand the role and its responsibilities? Can you clearly demonstrate the required qualities through strong examples? Have you considered any gaps in experience and how you might address them? Have you given yourself sufficient time to prepare both your application and for interview? This is a competitive process. While candidates are assessed against defined criteria, they are also considered alongside other highly capable applicants. So, careful preparation, clear evidence, and thoughtful reflection can make a significant difference. We welcome questions about the process, and these can be submitted via email to our Business Management Unit on mailbox@jabs.gov.scot or asked anonymously by way of the form linked in the description. Where appropriate, answers will be anonymised and published for the benefit of all candidates. Thank you for your interest in the Sheriff Principal role. I do hope this information has been helpful, and I also wish you every success with your application.